Yeah, this is Kavita. Your regular faculty is on leave today. So I am supposed to take Animal Kingdom chapter today. So he has been going with your 12th portion. Am I right? So I don't know where he stopped. So he will continue day after tomorrow. Let me start Animal Kingdom chapter because some of your request is to start this Animal Kingdom classification of animals. So I can do this classification of animals as far I can do in this hour. Okay, fine. So this Animal Kingdom chapter, it is in your 11th portion in the first unit. Diversity in Living World. Totally you have 4 chapters, right? Living World, Biological Classification. Third one is Plant Kingdom. And the fourth chapter, the last chapter in the first unit is Animal Kingdom chapter. So this chapter is a very important chapter in your 11th portion. You can expect 3 to 4 questions from this chapter for your main NEET exam. Okay. Minimum 3, maximum 4 questions. Sometimes they can ask you more than this also. And the basics of this chapter you have studied in your biological classification. So biological classification chapter, you studied this 2 kingdom level, 3 kingdom, 4 kingdom, and finally the 5 kingdom level of classification that was given by R.H. Whitaker, right? So he proposed the 5 kingdom level of classification. Under that we have kingdom Monera, kingdom Protista, kingdom Fungi, kingdom Plantae, and finally kingdom Animaliae. And in biological classification, you would have discussed about that first 3 kingdom, Monera, Protista, and Fungi. And plant kingdom, animal kingdom, you are reading in separate chapters, that is plant kingdom Plantae and kingdom Animaliae. And in this chapter we are going to discuss the last kingdom of 5 kingdom level classification, that is kingdom Animaliae. Okay, so what is the exclusive characteristic feature of this kingdom? So this kingdom is the only kingdom in our level of classification which includes multicellular organisms, only multicellular organisms, right? So all other kingdom you will have unicellular, multicellular, and even if you go for plant kingdom, so thallophytes include some unicellular organisms, right? Some algae and all. But in animal kingdom, this is the only kingdom where multicellular animals or multicellular organisms are only present in this kingdom. You cannot see any unicellular organism in this kingdom. Okay, so this is the highest level of classification. That is in your taxonomical classification, you know what are the categories that comes, right? Kingdom, phylum, or division. So the term phylum will be used for animals and division for plants. Okay, so as we are going to discuss about animals, we are going to discuss the different phylum under the animal kingdom, starting from phylum Porifera till phylum Chordata. We have some different phylum. All those phylum, the organisms that comes under that, the characteristic features of the phylum will be discussed under this chapter. And this animal kingdom, first before going to start with the different phyla, first let us see some introduction. In this introduction part we are going to see what are the basis of classification of animals. Okay, so this basis of classification, it includes so many characteristic features. Based on some fundamental features, we are going to see the different types of classification of animals, and then we can start with the phylum Porifera and we can discuss up to phylum Chordata. Under phylum Chordata you will discuss about the different subphylum, and under subphylum Vertebrata we will study about the different classes, class Pisces, class Amphibia, Reptilia, Aves, and Mammalia. Okay, so these are the things we are going to discuss under this chapter. Okay, now let me give you the introduction for this animal kingdom. So as I told, like only multicellular organisms will come under this kingdom. No unicellular organisms are present in this kingdom. This multicellular organisms, okay, multicellular organisms with holozoic mode of nutrition. Yes, basically the mode of nutrition can be classified into 2 categories. One is the autotrophic mode of nutrition, other one is heterotrophic mode of nutrition. And you know very well this holozoic mode of nutrition, it comes under heterotroph, not autotrophs. Okay, under autotrophs you can classify again into photoautotrophic and chemoautotrophic. And under heterotrophic we have saprophytic mode of nutrition, symbiotic, holozoic, or holophytic. Yes, so this holozoic mode of nutrition, it comes under heterotrophic mode of nutrition. And you know what is holozoic? So if an organism is intaking the food as a whole, and then the food will be undergoing a different steps like ingestion, digestion, assimilation, absorption, and finally adhesion. Okay, so all these processes are series of events that will take place in the Holozoic mode of nutrition. So multicellular organisms with Holozoic mode of nutrition, they are called as metazoans. Okay, the multicellular organisms which are undergoing Holozoic mode of nutrition are called as metazoa, right? Metazoans. Now, based on the complexity of organization, these metazoans are divided into two categories. That is, we are going to divide the metazoans into two subkingdom. One is called as parazoa and other one is eumetazoa. Parazoa and eumetazoa. Okay, so under your animal kingdom, I told you starting from phylum Porifera, you have phylum Coelenterata, that is Cnidaria, Ctenophora, then Platyhelminthes, Aschelminthes, Annelida, Arthropoda, Mollusca, Echinodermata, and finally Chordata. Okay, so all these phylum come under your animal kingdom. And this parazoa, it includes only the first phylum, that is phylum Porifera. So, you know, phylum Porifera includes mostly sponges. Okay. So, sponges alone come under parazoa. Rest of all phyla comes under eumetazoa. Rest of all phyla means after Porifera, whatever phylum I told you now, they all come under eumetazoa. Okay, now you have to know on what basis this metazoa is categorized into parazoa and eumetazoa. So, parazoa means all are multicellular organisms because metazoans are all completely multicellular and following the Holozoic mode of nutrition. Now, there is no difference in parazoa and eumetazoa based on the multicellular nature. Both are multicellular, but the level of organization is cellular level of organization in parazoa. Okay, so the multicellular organisms with cellular level of organization. So the basic level of organization is cellular level. Actually, you have some subcategories under cellular. You have subcellular level also. But when you go for animal kingdom, the basic level of organization is cellular level. So the cellular level of organization having the organisms comes under this category of parazoa, and the rest of all phyla, they will have the higher level of organization next to cellular level. So next to cellular level, you will have the tissue level of organization, right? And next to tissue level, we have organ level. And next to organ level, we have organ system level. So organ system level is the highest level of organization, and all these highest level of organizations, higher organizations comes under the category of eumetazoa. So after phylum Porifera till your phylum Chordata, all the rest of phyla comes under this eumetazoa. So this is the basic categorization of your animal kingdom. Now let us move on to the basis of classification. So we are going to see on what basis we are going to classify organisms, and we are going to place the organisms under the subcategories, because the first one is kingdom. So kingdom is what we are discussing, animal kingdom, right? So the next level of categorization is phylum, because we are discussing about animal kingdom. The next category is phylum. Suppose if it is a plant kingdom, the next category will be a division. Okay, division Thallophyte, division Bryophyte, division Pteridophyte, Gymnosperm and Angiosperm. As we are discussing animal kingdom, the next category will be phylum, and next to phylum we will have class, okay, order, family, kingdom, phylum, class, order. Right, I'll write on this side. I am having some disturbance. So kingdom, phylum is, then class, order, family, genus, species. These are the taxonomical categories in our taxonomical classification. And now when we are going to classify the organisms, we need some features on what basis we are going to classify. Okay, under animal kingdom, we know the different animals, they have so many differences in their structure, their body organization, form, everything. In addition to that, there are some fundamental features which are common to various animals. So now we are going to see what are the fundamental characteristic features that is common to all organisms, and on what that basis how we are going to classify the organisms, right? So let me tell you what are the fundamental features and what basis we are going to classify the organisms. So the several fundamental features common to various animals in relation to arrangement of cells. Okay, in relation to arrangement of cells. Okay, and then we have the body symmetry based on the symmetry arrangement. Based on the body symmetry. Fine, this is one of the characteristic feature we are going to discuss. And then based on the nature of coelom, that is based on the body cavity. Okay, based on the nature of coelom, this is going to be one of the characteristic feature. And then based on the patterns of organ system, that is the different organ systems like digestive system, circulatory system, reproductive system, excretory system, everything. Okay, so all these features are going to be used for the basis of classification. So they are used as basis of classification, and now we can see one by one. First, let us start with the arrangement of cells. That is, we are going to see that in the topic called as levels of organization. Okay, so under this levels of organization, we are going to see how the animals can be classified under different level. So just now I discussed in the introduction part the levels of organization in animals. The basic one is cellular level, and next to cellular level is tissue level, organ level, organ system level. Fine. So now in the level of organization, we know like all organisms that comes under kingdom animalia are multicellular, right? And all of them do not exhibit the same pattern of organization of cells. So before that, first let us see what are the levels, and then I will categorize the phylum under different levels. So the first level is cellular level of organization. Next, the higher level is said to be tissue level of organization. Then we have organ level of organization. And then we have organ system level of organization. Okay. Now, under the cellular level of organization, we will have like the cells are arranged as loose cell aggregate form. Okay. So they exhibit the cellular level of organization. Organisms where the cells are arranged as loose cell aggregates are called a cellular level, and phylum Porifera will come under the cellular level of organization. Only phylum Porifera comes under the cellular level of organization, which is going to include the sponges. Okay. And after this cellular level, the next higher level is tissue level. So some division of labor will occur among the cells, and the tissue level of organization includes phylum Cnidaria, which is also called as Coelenterata, and phylum Ctenophora. Okay, Cnidaria and Ctenophora, they comes under the tissue level of organization. So when they are undergoing the tissue level of organization, the cells performing the same function, they are arranged into tissues. Okay. Now, the next higher level is organ level. This higher level of organization, that is organ level of organization, is exhibited by the members of organisms that belongs to the phylum called as Platyhelminthes. Okay. So the organisms that comes under phylum Platyhelminthes, they have this organ level of organization, and organ system level, it is going to be from Aschelminthes, from this phylum, starting from phylum Aschelminthes, which includes roundworms, right? Then Aschelminthes, we have annelids, fine, and then we have arthropods, annelids, arthropods. Then we have mollusk, that is phylum Mollusca, right? Then we have Echinodermata, and the last one is phylum Chordata. Okay, so all these will have organ system level of organization where the organs will be associated to form a functional organ system. Okay, so organ system in different group of animals exhibit various patterns. See, if you take the organ system level of organization, all these organisms starting from Aschelminthus till Chordata will not have the same kind of organ system. Under this organ system, you have the different categories based on the pattern of complexities. So the organisms from the basic level Aschelminthus, no, it will have a different level of complexity. When you move on to higher level, the complexity will also vary. For example, I'll tell you, if you take the digestive system of Platyhelminthes, okay, if you take the digestive system of Platyhelminthes, fine, it will have only one opening. Single opening will be present, right? And this single opening will be outside to the body, which serve as a mouth as well as anus. This single opening will act as mouth as well as anus. So this is said to be, this type of digestive system is called as a incomplete digestive tract. Once if they are having separate openings for mouth and anus, it is said to be a complete digestive system or complete digestive tract. Or else it can be called as an incomplete digestive tract, because the same opening is going to act as a mouth. At the same time, it will act as a adjusting part, that is called as the anus. Okay. So what is said to be a complete digestive system? Once if you're saying an organism is having a complete digestive tract or complete digestive system, then it means it will have two openings. That is a separate opening for ingestion and a separate opening for egestion. That is ingestion for, that is mouth, and for egestion they will have anus. If mouth and anus are going to be separate openings, then it is called as a complete digestive system. So the complete digestive system is the one where the organisms will have the organ system level, that is Aschelminthus, Annelids, Arthropod, Mollusca, all those will have this complete digestive system with the two openings. Now, based on these two openings, which opening is going to occur first? Again, based on this complete digestive system, whether the mouth is going to form first or anal opening is going to form first. So based on that, again, you can classify the organisms as protostomus development, and other one is called as deuterostomus development. Fine. So protostomus and deuterostomus in the complete digestive system. So protostomus development, where the mouth develops from blastopore during embryonic life, that is called as protostomus. If the mouth develops first, okay, and mouth which develops first, and this mouth will develop from, it develops from blastopore. So in human reproduction, like you would have studied about that blastocele, blastocyst, everything. Okay. So this, from this blastopore, if the mouth develops first, and this will develop during the embryonic life. Okay. During embryonic life, if the mouth develops first from the blastopore, then it is called as protostomus development. Now you have to know what are the phylum that comes under protostomus development having complete digestive system. So starting from Aschelminthus, because Aschelminthus is the first phylum having a complete digestive system. So Aschelminthus, then you have Annelids, then we have Arthropods, okay, and mollusk. They all come under this protostomus development, because mouth develops first in these organisms from blastopore during the embryo. Mean by deuterostomus development? In this deuterostomus development, anus develops first. Okay. In protostomus, mouth develops first, right? In deuterostomus, anus develops first, and it is called as deuterostomus development. So what are the remaining phyla? After mollusca, you have echinodermata. So echinoderms, the organisms echinoderms, and then to echinodermata, we have chordata. So chordates, echinoderms and chordates, they comes under deuterostomus development, because anus develops first in these organisms, and that is called as deuterostomus development. Okay. And this is regarding to the digestive system. I'm talking about digestive system under this organ system level of organization. I'm talking about digestive system, and based on digestive system, if there are two openings, it is said to be a complete digestive system. And in these two openings, which one is going to develop first, whether mouth or anus? If mouth develops first, then it is called as protostomus, and if anus develops first, then it is called as deuterostomus. Okay, fine. Now let me tell you about the organ systems. Suppose if it is going to be a circulatory system. In circulatory system, how can you classify based on the complexity of the organ system? For example, circulatory system, if you take, how can you classify the organisms? Under circulatory system, you can classify into open type circulatory system and closed type circulatory system. Okay, an open type circulatory system where the blood will be pumped out of the heart and the cells and tissues will be directly bathed in the body fluid. Okay, so you will not have any network of blood vessels in the open type of circulatory system. So blood will be pumped out of heart. Heart will be present. Blood will be pumped out of the heart. Okay, and now all the cells and tissues will be bathed in it. The cells and tissues will be bathed in it, directly bathed in it, and this type of open circulatory system will be found in arthropods. So in structural organization, when studying about cockroach, you would have studied it is having an open circulatory system, and cockroaches, all insects comes under arthropoda, right? So arthropods will have the open circulatory system. Again, mollusk will have the open circulatory system. Then hemichordates will have the open circulatory system, and urochordates will have the open circulatory system. So the other name for urochordates is said to be tunicates. Tunicates. Okay, so all these are examples for organisms having open circulatory system. So even circulatory system, organ system is said to be present from Ascalminthus to Chordata. All the organisms are not going to have a common type of circulatory system. So that's what we are categorizing into open and closed. In open, no blood vessels, no network of blood vessels. Blood will be pumped by the heart, and the cells and tissues are directly bathed in the body fluid, that is blood. Okay, now coming to the closed type of circulatory system. Here you will have a network of or series of blood vessels of varying diameters, like blood vessels, which includes arteries. So we have blood vessels of varying diameters in our body. You know about arteries are present which carries oxygenated blood except pulmonary artery. And there are veins in our body which carry deoxygenated except our pulmonary vein. And these arteries and veins, they will branch out as arterioles and capillaries. And veins, venules, capillaries. So all these network of blood vessels will be present in the closed circulatory system. And these blood vessels will not be there in the open circulatory system. And this series of vessels of varying diameters and blood is circulating by means of these blood vessels, then it is called as closed circulatory system. And examples of organisms having this closed circulatory system, one is annelids. Okay, see, you can see I have left annelids here. Arthropods, directly I started with arthropods. So annelids will have closed circulatory system. And one more thing, vertebrates will also have closed circulatory system. Fine. So this is regarding to the circulatory system of organisms. That is how you can classify the thing. So under level of organization, I have given you two level of, see, again, I'll have a small recap. Under level of organization, this is the first characteristic feature we are going to discuss under basis of classification. So the level of organization in animals, the basic level is cellular. Then we have tissue, organ system. And if we go for organ system, we have different level based on the complexity of the organisms. For that, I have given you two important examples, right? So one is said to be the digestive system. I told you how in digestive system, the complexity varies in the organism. So complete digestive system is where two openings will be present, and incomplete digestive system where only one opening will be there, and two openings, mouth and anus, if present in an organism, whether the mouth will occur first or anus will form first. If the mouth develops first, then it is called as protostomus. Okay. And if anus develops first and then later mouth development occurs, and that is called as deuterostomus. We human organisms comes under deuterostomus because we are all chordates. Okay. So for us, first anal opening form, then later the opposite extreme end mouth opening will be developed. Okay. And Ascalminthus, annelids, arthropod, mollusks, they all come under protostomus. echinoderms and chordates comes under deuterostomes. Now, based on the circulatory system also, I have given the categorization, the open and closed circulatory system. Now, the second characteristic feature for the basis of classification, what we are going to discuss is symmetry. So, which is a very, very important topic for your NEET exam. You will be getting a question from the symmetry topic most frequently. So, animals can also be categorized on the basis of symmetry. Okay. So, basically, we have two different group of organisms, that is asymmetrical group of organisms and symmetrical. Suppose if an organism is going to acquire the property of symmetry, then it is called as symmetrical. And an organism do not acquire the property of symmetry, then it is called as asymmetrical. So how can you define asymmetrical organisms? Asymmetrical organisms are mostly irregular in shape. Okay, any plane that passes through center does not divide the organism into equal half, that is called as asymmetrical. Okay, so again I'll tell you, asymmetrical means they do not have the property of symmetry. Symmetry means if you cut the organism by longitudinal, transverse or diagonal or any means, you should have an identical half. If any plane passes through center and it does not divide the organism into equal half or identical half, then the property is said to be asymmetrical. So members of phylum Porifera, they are irregular in shape and they do not possess symmetry, and so they comes under this asymmetrical category. And symmetry means here you will get the organism into two. If you divide the organism, you will get two identical halves. Yes, and these two identical halves can be obtained by any means, whether by longitudinal means or by transverse means or by diagonal or radial. By any way, if you are getting the identical halves, then it is called as symmetry. Now, under symmetry, we are going to see two different categories. One is radial symmetry and other one is bilateral symmetry. Okay, so radial and bilateral. Now let me tell you what is the difference between radial symmetry and bilateral symmetry. So any plane passing through the central axis of the organism divides the organism into two identical halves, then it is called as radial symmetry. So radial symmetry, in radial symmetry, the axis may pass through center, but it can be of any plane. You need not to have a condition like whether it is longitudinal or transverse or anything. Any plane passing through the central axis of the organism and divides them into two identical halves is radial symmetry. Then the organisms of phylum Cnidaria comes under radial. Okay. Then the organisms of phylum Ctenophora comes under radial symmetry. Okay, and then the organisms of echinoderms. So this is a very, very important question for your NEET. Mostly they will be asking question from this echinodermata, what type of symmetry. Okay, echinoderms, no. Echinoderm, the larva of echinodermata is bilaterally symmetrical, but adult is radially symmetrical. So when you are talking about an organism, about the symmetry part, always you will consider the adult. Okay, you will not consider about the larva. So the adult of echinodermata is radially symmetrical. So echinodermata is coming under radial category and not under bilateral category. Got it, students? Yes. So don't ask, like you may get a doubt like the larva is bilaterally symmetric. Then why it should not come under bilateral category and it is coming under radial category? You should not consider about the larva. You should consider only about the adult, and adult organism of echinoderms possess radial symmetry. So echinoderms will come under radial. Only if they are asking you question mentioning that the larva of echinoderms comes under which symmetry, you have to say bilateral. Otherwise, if they are generally asking you echinoderms comes under what type of symmetry, means you have to say it is radial symmetry. Okay, fine. Now these organisms are going to be under radial symmetry. Now what is bilateral symmetry? Bilateral symmetry is the one where the organism can be divided into identical left and right. When you will get left and right halves, only if an organism is like this, only if you cut the organism like this, you will get left and right. Suppose if the organism you are cutting by this, means this is not left and right? This is up and down. So this is not bilateral symmetry. This is bilateral symmetry. If you cut the organism into two and you are getting identical left and right halves, Okay, and this is always in only one plane. Okay, this plane will be always in longitudinal means, and this type of symmetry is called as bilateral. Bi is two, lateral is always sides. Okay, on either side is called as lateral. On left and right side you will have two halves, and these two halves will be identical by only one plane, and it is called as bilateral symmetry. So example for organisms that comes under bilateral symmetry: annelids, arthropods, remaining all organisms. See, here you have porifera. Okay, Cnidaria ctenophora comes here. Later you have platyhelminthes, aschelminthes, and then you have this, what is that? Annelida, arthropoda, mollusca. Echinodermata is an exceptional because echinodermata comes under radial. So chordata, etc. So I'm writing etc., which means all other phylum which do not comes under asymmetrical and radial symmetry will come under bilateral symmetry. Got it? Yes. So this is under the symmetric character. Now we have completed two characteristic features for the basis of classification. Now we are going to see the third characteristic feature. The third characteristic feature what we are going to discuss is the germ layers. Okay. So based on the number of germ layers, we are going to see how you can categorize the organisms, animal organisms. Okay. The under germ layers we have two categories. You can classify the organisms under two categories. One is said to be diploblastic and other one is called as triploblastic. Diploblastic and triploblastic. Okay, so already you have studied in human reproduction chapter, like the germ layers, like after the formation, after the implantation, like in the 64 cell stage, the germ layers will separate: ectoderm, endoderm and mesoderm, right? All organisms will not have the three germ layers. Some organisms will possess only two germ layers, and if the germ layers are two, then it is called as diploblastic. And if the germ layers are going to be three, then it is called as triploblastic group of organisms. In diploblastic animals, the body cells are arranged in two embryonic layers. And what are those two? One is the outer. What is the outer layer called as? Outer layer is ectoderm, and other one is inner. Inner one is called as endoderm. Then which germ layer is missing in the diploblastic animals? Mesoderm. Middle mesoderm will not be there. The middle germ layer will not be present. Only the outer and inner germ layers will be present. That is, ectoderm and endoderm will be there. No middle mesoderm. So these two germ layers are together called as diploblastic. Okay. So, and in this diploblastic organisms, in this between this ectoderm and endoderm, there will be an intervening. So what do you mean by intervening? It will not be properly differentiated, but it will be separating this ectoderm and endoderm, and this is called not called mesoderm. Instead, it is called as mesoglia. In between outer ectoderm and inner endoderm, there will be an intervening mesoglia. So example for diploblastic organisms are Cnidaria. Fine. So Cnidaria is said to be Cnidaria and Ctenophora will come under this diploblastic. And coming to this triploblastic, three germ layers. Here you will have the outer layer, the well differentiated middle layer, and the inner layer too. Outer layer is ectoderm, middle layer is mesoderm, and inner layer is endoderm. All the three germ layers are well differentiated, and it is called as triploblastic layer, triploblastic animals. Okay, so starting from your platyhelminthes, starting from phylum platyhelminthes till phylum chordata. So in between, you know what are the phylum that will come: Aschelminthes, Annelida, Arthropoda, Mollusca, Echinodermata, and Chordata. All these are triploblastic in nature because they all have this three germ layers. Okay, so one diagram will be there in your NCERT book showing this diploblastic and triploblastic. Based on that diagram, many times they are asking you neat question. So please see that diagram, and you should be able to find out which is diploblastic and which is triploblastic. Okay, in diploblastic you don't have mesoderm, instead you will have an undifferentiated mesoglia. Only in triploblastic you will have the well differentiated three layers: outer layer, middle layer, and inner layer. Okay, got it? Now shall we move on to the fourth characteristic feature? Now the fourth characteristic feature we can see about body plan. Okay, actually this is not in your NCERT, but you should know about this body plan, because only if you are clear with this body plan, when studying human physiology, you will be able to like understand the concepts discussed in human physiology. Okay, so under body plan, we have three different types of body plan. So the first one is cellular aggregate body plan. The first type of body plan in animal organisms is cellular aggregate. The second one is blind sac body plan. And the third one is tube within tube body plan. So these are the three different types of body plan where the animals can be categorized into. And cellular aggregate body plan, no, it is present only in phylum Porifera, that is sponges, because only Porifera will have the cellular level of organization. Aggregation means, you know, a group of cells accumulate together and they are not having any tissue level, only cells, and all these multicellular, they will aggregate together and they will do the function, and that is called a cellular aggregate body plan. Example, Porifera. Now, in blind sac body plan, the alimentary canal will have only one opening. That is, both for alimentary canal will possess only one opening, which will act as a mouth and also act as a anus. That is, both for ingestion and for egestion. For ingestion and egestion, there will be only one opening. That type of body plan is called as, I told you, incomplete digestive tract. That is called as blind sac body plan. And you know, this blind sac body plan will be present in organisms, Cnidaria, Ctenophora, and then Platyhelminthes. These group of organisms will have this blind sac body plan. Okay. And coming to this tube within tube body plan. See, the digestive tract, if it is a complete one having two openings, both mouth and anus, so the complete digestive tract is called as the tube within tube body plan. Complete digestive tract. I told you there it's a where they will have the, which group of organisms will have the complete digestive tract. So starting from your Aschelminthus, the other name for Aschelminthus, sometimes they will not give you the answer as Aschelminthus. It will be given as Nemathelminthus. Okay, Aschelminthus till Aschelminthus, Annelida, Arthropoda, Mollusca, Echinodermata, and Chordate. Till Chordata, you will have this tube within tube body plan. Where they will have two openings, that is one for mouth and one for anus. Ingestion and egestion will have separate openings. Okay. So this is said to be the different types of body plan. Okay. Got it, students? Now, the next one, what we are going to see, the fifth character is the coelom, which is also called as, commonly said to be body cavity. Body cavity, the other name is called as coelom. Okay, right. Now, the body cavity, always please remember, body cavity will be always lined by, this is a very important neat question. Options are ectoderm, endoderm, mesoderm. Can you give your options in your chat, students? I have asked you one question. The body cavity is lined by, I have given you three options: ectoderm, mesoderm, endoderm. What is the answer? You can post your answers in the chat. Let me see how many of you are giving the correct answer. Body cavity or coelom is lined by dash: ectoderm, endoderm, mesoderm. What is your answer? Yeah, some of them are giving me the answers: ecto, endo, meso. Yes, it is mesoderm, not endoderm or ectoderm. So please be like, see, I'll give you one clue. You can keep it this in your mind. Cavity means cavity will be always present in the center. Okay, in the center, if something is empty, then it is called as cavity. So center means which germ layer is in the middle? Ectoderm, mesoderm, endoderm. Which is in the middle? Mesoderm. So body cavity or coelom is always lined by mesoderm, not by ectoderm or endoderm. Okay, you can keep this point in your mind so that you can easily, you will not get any confusion while picking the answer. So the body cavity lined by mesoderm, that is called your coelom. Okay, again under this also we have three categories. Let me categorize the organisms. The first categorization is organisms called as acoelomates. Second categorization, organisms called as pseudocoelomates. And the last one, if there is something as pseudo, then there will be sure another categorization called as U, because pseudo is false. Then true one is called as U, right? So this is your 3 categorization. Now the first one, acoelomate. Always wherever you use the word a, it means absence. Absent. Okay. Absence of coelom is called as acoelomate. So the animals in which coelom is absent, completely absent, it is called as acoelomate. So example is Platyhelminthes. I'm starting from Platyhelminthes. Why not? Why I am excluding Porifera, Cnidaria, Ctenophora, and all? Why I didn't include any of these organisms? Because first of all, coelom or body cavity will be present. See, go to your diploblastic and triploblastic. Okay. See, mesoderm will be present only in triploblastic. It is not there in diploblastic. I told you body cavity or coelom will be lined by mesoderm. Then is there any possibility for diploblastic organisms to have body cavity? No, not at all. So you need not to consider this phylum Porifera, Coelenterata, Cnidaria, Pterophora for this. Directly you can start from where mesoderm is absent. So acoelomates in Platyhelminthes, where mesoderm is present, the coelom is not there. So Platyhelminthes or acoelomates, and pseudocoelomates. Pseudo means always it represents false. Okay, false or fake. Now the body cavity, if it is not completely lined with mesoderm, if the body cavity is not completely lined with mesoderm, that means it is partially lined. Okay, not completely lined with mesoderm, then it is having a coelom, but it is not a true coelom. It is a false coelom, that is called a pseudocoelomate. So instead mesoderm is present, they will have pouches, some scattered pouches in between ectoderm and endoderm. So example for the pseudocoelomate is Aschelminthes, that is your roundworms. Aschelminthes includes roundworms, right? So roundworms will not have a complete body cavity lined with mesoderm. Instead, they will have some pouches in between the ectoderm and mesoderm, and that is called your Aschelminthes. And the last category is eucoelomate. Here, the true coelom will be found. So what do you mean by true coelom? If the coelom is completely arising from embryonic mesoderm, then it is called as a true coelom. The true coelom will be found in the mesodermal lining. Okay, so the mesodermal lining of the body cavity is called as mesothelium or peritoneum. This coelomic cavity, the coelomic true coelom, no, it will be filled with coelomic fluid that is secreted by the peritoneum. So true coelom is found. This eucoelomates includes annelids, starting from annelid, arthropod, mollusca, echinodermata until chordate. So from annelids till chordates, they will come under eucoelomates. Okay, now from annelids to chordates, I am telling every day all organisms, they will come under eucoelomate. But under eucoelomate, you can categorize from annelids to chordates under 2 categories. Let me tell you in the next slide. So this eucoelomates, no, eucoelomates, I told true coelom will be found. True coelom means that is the coelom or body cavity that arises from the mesoderm layer. Okay, and the mesodermal lining of the body cavity, the mesodermal lining is called as mesothelium. The mesodermal lining is called as mesothelium, or it can be called as peritoneum. And your body cavity coelom will be filled with the coelomic fluid which is secreted by this peritoneum. Okay. Now I told like starting from Aschelminthes, starting from annelids till chordata. Annelids till chordata, they will come under this eucoelomate. Now I am going to categorize the annelids to chordate in between organisms under eucoelomate into 2 categories. That is, one is called as the schizocoelom. And the second category under eucoelomate is called as enterocoelom. So what is the difference between schizocoelom and enterocoelom? All are eucoelomate. Then why I am categorizing under that is schizocoelom and enterocoelom? See, in schizocoelom, the cavity develops as a split in mesoderm. It is found in annelids, the first of 3 group of organism. Next to annelids, arthropods, right? Next to arthropods, mollusk. In these three group of organisms, they will have schizocoelom, which means the body cavity develops as a split in mesoderm. It will occur as a small split. Okay. But in enterocoelom, the mesoderm arises from the wall of embryonic gut. You know, entro means it represents intestine or gut. Okay. Now, if the mesoderm arises from the wall of embryonic gut or entron as pouches, and this is called as enterocoelom, and next to mollusk, you will have what are the organisms next to mollusk? Echinoderm, then hemichordates, and finally chordates. So these three, first three comes under schizocoelom, last three comes under enterocoelom. So enterocoelom in arthropoda and mollusca, the coelomic cavity, no, it will be filled with blood that is called as in arthropod and mollusk. In arthropod, because annelids will have closed circulatory system. Leave this. Arthropod and mollusk will have open circulatory system. And these two organisms, the coelomic cavity, no, it will be filled with blood. And this filled with blood, no, it is called as hemocoel. Blood is heme and cavity is seal, so it is called as hemocoel, right? And echinoderms, hemichordates, chordates. Echinodermata and hemichordata, they will have again open circulatory system. And under chordates, you have urochordata, cephalochordata, and vertebrata. Only vertebrates will have closed circulatory system. Remaining two will have an open circulatory system. So this is how, based on the body cavity or coelom, we can categorize the organism, right? Now, some other characteristic features which are exceptional. So let me explain those things also. It will be easy for you when you go for this particular phylum. So that some more characters, one is said to be segmentation. That is the body segmentation. You can see in some organisms, the body will be externally and internally, it will be segmented. Okay. External and internal segmentation, they will be divided into segments, and these segments will be having a serial repetition of some organs. Okay. When they are divided into segments, some organs will be serially repeated. For example, if you take annelids, that is, if you take earthworm, okay, you can see this external and internal segmentation pattern, and it is called as metamerism. That pattern of segmentation is called as metamerism, where it is internally and externally segment. Okay, and the segmentation is metameric segmentation, and the concept is called as, phenomenon is called as metamerism. Even in arthropods, you will have the segmentation. Fine. And one more character I want to discuss is notochord. You know what do you mean by notochord? Because of the presence of this notochord, some group of organisms are under the phylum called as phylum chordata. That is, this notochord is said to be mesodermally derived structure. It is also derived from the middle germ layer, mesodermal germ layer, mesodermally derived structure, and this notochord is said to be a rod-like structure. Okay, it is a mesodermally derived rod-like structure, and this notochord is formed on the dorsal side during the embryonic development in some animals. And some animals which are having this notochord, they are called as chordates. Animals which have this mesodermally derived rod-like structure, notochord, they are called as chordates. And whereas animals which do not have this notochord, they are called as non-chordates. Okay, animals which do not have notochord, which have notochord are called as chordates, and do not have notochord are called as non-chordates. So these are the basis of classification you should know while classifying the organisms before going to the phylum. Okay, so we have seen some common fundamental features for the classification of kingdom Animalia based on some common features like level of organization, symmetry, body cavity or coelom, and then we have body plan. Yes. So, and finally, I discussed about some two important characters which that is said to be, one is segmentation, another one is notochord. Okay. Yes, students, hope you have understood the basis of. I can show you the slides from the beginning. Okay. I'll show you the slides from the beginning, students, so that you can take the notes. If you are not able to take the notes when I am taking the class, now you can show, I will show you the slides. This is the first slide. So this is the first slide. As we are having last 2 minutes, I'll show you the slides. If you want to make note of anything, you can note down, right? And let us, in the next class, sir will start with the phylum. That is starting from phylum Porifera. He will go one by one. Okay, this is the first slide. This is your second slide. Now I am showing the third slide. Suppose if you are not able to take the notes, you can take snapshot from your mobile. Later you can copy in your notebook. Okay. This is your third slide, students. Now I am showing the fourth slide. Okay, some students have they are asking me to teach structural organization. Sure, if I get time, I will teach the structural. See, that is a very, very easy chapter. You can study it in a very easy method. Suppose if I am able to take structural organization, I'll teach you in a very easy way so that you can easily remember everything. Okay, don't worry. Sure, we will take structural organization also. This is fifth one. So this is sixth one. Seventh one. Eighth one. Ninth slide. The last 10th slide. Yeah, one student, Shweta, she has asked me to show the second and third slide. Shweta, this is second slide. Shweta, this is second slide for you. And this is third slide. Hey students, please, when reading Animal Kingdom chapter, before you start with phylum, first read this introduction part. Introduction part is very, very important. I told you in the first slide, I told you 3 to 4 questions you will be getting from this chapter, questions, right? And out of this 3 to 4 question, one question will be sure from the introduction part, what we saw today. If you are thorough with today's topic 1 hour class, you can attend one question from Animal Kingdom. Remaining 3 questions or 2 questions will be from the phylum. One question will be always there from the basis of classification. So please don't neglect this part. You read this part thoroughly before starting with the phylum part. Okay. If you are clear with these concepts, you will be able to understand the remaining phylum, whatever like characteristic features or examples you are going to read in the phylum. Okay. Thank you so much, students. Thank you for listening. Yeah, we'll see you in the next class. Thank you so much. Bye. Take care.